Some men think women move on easily, that once the relationship ends, or even it never started, she forgets all about him and goes on like nothing ever happened. But the truth is, that's not how it works. There are certain things Ian can do that leave a lasting impression even years after he's out of her life. Not because he was rich, not because he looked like a model, but because of how he showed up. Welcome, Tough Channel. Glad you're here. Around here, we keep things real, easy to follow, and worth your time. Whether you're dating, in a relationship, or just trying to understand women better, this one's going to be eye-opening. Now, this isn't about tricks or pickup lines. This is about presence. It's about behavior, character, and how a man carries himself. When a guy constantly shows up in a certain way, strong, grounded, clear, it's unforgettable. Note, in a clingy or desperate way, in a way that makes her respect him, remember him, and often compare other men to him. And let's be honest, most guys are forgettable. They play games, they hover promise, they try to impress instead being solid. But when a man does the opposite, when he locks into a few key behaviours, that's when everything inches. This video is going to break down 5 specific things that make Eamon stick in a woman's mind. And if you're doing these already, great. You'll start to see how powerful they are. If not, this is your chance to change the game completely. So, whether you're single, dating, or even already with someone, knowing these 5 things can completely shift how women see you, respond to you, and remember you long after you're gone. Let's get into it. He walks away like he means it. 1. He walks away like he means it. There's something unforgettable about Ian, who can walk away calmly, clearly, and without turning it into a show. Most guys stick around too long. They hang on to something that's not working, hoping she'll change, waiting for her to see his value, or trying to fix things that clearly aren't fixable. That energy is Chevy, and it pushes women away, more ETH than they realise. But when a man knows shoe, he is what he wants, and what he won't tolerate. Walking away becomes a sign of strength, not weakness. It doesn't mean he stops caring. It means respects himself enough not to settle. And that kind of move sticks with a woman. Picture this. She's been hot and cold. Some days she's Alan calling, texting, showing interest. Other days she pulls back, takes auto-respond, or seems most men would get anxious. They'd ask what's wrong, try harder, towing her over, or make excuses for her behaviour. But not this guy. He notices shift, doesn't overreact. Ando doesn't chase. He gives it a bit off space. If nothing changes, her know he's not looking for confusion or games. And then, without bigging, without drama, he leaves. He doesn't ghost. He's direct, and he's done. That kind of exit hits differently. Why? Because it's rare. He didn't lash out. He didn't make her think. He simply showed that his timid energy are valuable. That's confidence most men don't have. And even if she doesn't show it right away, it leaves a mark. Maybe not in the moment, but later when she meets other guys were to lure it, mixed signals who stick around too long, who can't walk unless they're ayashed. She remembered the one who didn't need to be convinced. Walking the way isn't about power plays or manipulation. It's about knowing when an O is enough and being willing to divide with your self-respect intact. That kind of man. She doesn't forget him. He makes her feel safe without smothering her too. He makes her feel safe without smoring her. Women don't forget how Ian made them feel. And one of the most powerful feelings a woman remembers, ice, emotional safety. It's not just about physical protection or being the tough eye. Emotional safety is quieter, but way more impactful. It's with her when she finds it. The other piece of this is space. Amen. Who makes her feel safe, does and cling? He doesn't need con. He gives her room to think, breathe, and be herself. That doesn't mean he pulls away. It just means he's not crowding her emotionally. He's secure in himself, and that creates an environment where she can be secure too. And here's the part that liberates him. He doesn't try to keep peace by avoiding hard conversations. He says what needs to be said, but in a calm, respectful way. Heck can sit in uncomfortable moments without blowing up, shutting down, or changing subject. That kind of emote is what builds long-term trust. He's not perfect, he doesn't have to be, but he's consistent. And that consistency creates a solid foundation. No games, no drama, just a steady presence that gives her the space to be that kind of safety. She might not knock about it out loud, but Sherry remembers it because most guys either smother her or ignore her. But the man who gives her both presence and peace. He's hard to forget. He says what most men won't. 3. He says what most men won't. A man who speaks his mind not to shock, not to argue, but to tell the truth is. And when a woman meets someone like that, it stays with her. Not because he said something wild or aggressive, but because he said something real, something honest, something most men avoid. Let's be clear, this isn't about being harsh or brutally honest just for the sake of it. It's not about picking fights or constantly challenging her. It's about being willing to say what you actually think, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it might not go over smoothly. Because what sticks with people is the behind the words, not just stewards themselves. Most guys avoid that kind of honesty. They smooth things over. They say what they think she wants to hear. They hold back their true opinions because they don't want to mess things up. But here's what really happens. The connection ends up feelings are level. Nothing deep, nothing marble, just safe, boring, and forgettable. But the man who's willing to speak up, he's different. He'll say how he feels. He'll let her know when doesn't sit right with him. He'll share his values, his boundaries, and even his doubts, not to create clarity, but to create clarity, and that clarity earns respect. The real difference is that he's not filtering everything, says to avoid conflict or keep things comfortable. He's rooted in who he is, and because of that, he can tell the truth without fear of buying misenders or rejected even if the conversation is uncomfortable. She feels that it's coming from a solid place. There's also something attractive about Buddha man who can be honest when it's vulnerable, saying, I don't know, or that made me feel disrespected, or this isn't working for me. That takes more strength than pretending to have it figured out. And women don't forget a man who can be both confident and dependent. When you're that kind of honest, people trust you more. They might not agree with you, but they know where you stand. That kind of clarity is rare and powerful. Most men play it safe and keep things shallow. But when a man is willing to go deeper, say what he means and let the chips fall where they may, that leaves a mark. It might not always be smooth, but it's real. Andrew always gets remembered. He never chases, he leads for. He never chases, he leads. A man will lead stands out because most don't. Most guys chase. They put into Mukafert too early. They overthink every love, and they make the woman the centre of their attention before anything really is even established. It doesn't come from confidence. It comes from a fear of missing out or not being enough. Chasing usually looks like constantly checking in, always initiating around her. That balance of presence and independence is rare, and it sends a clear message without saying much at all. Women notice it is because it feels different. There's no chasing, no neediness, no distress, just a man moving forward on his own path. And when that kind of man shows interest, it hits differently. It feels solid, grounded, and it's much more attractive than someone who's willing to bend in every direction just to keep things going. At the core of it, leadership is about self-control. It's about knowing when to step forward and when to let things breathe. It's about trusting that if a connection is right, it won't require begging or convincing. And if it's not right, no amount of chasing will make it worth your time. That mindset is what sets a man apart Beck as anyone can pursue. But the Mano leads with calm, quiet confidence. That's the one she remembers. He knows when to shut up. 5. He knows when to shut up. One of most overlooked traits that makes a man unforgettable is his ability to beck quiet at the right time. Not passive, not withdrawn, just intentional. Hiddos feel the need to fill every as he's not constantly talking to. He knows something or trying to control the conversation. He understands chat. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. A lot of guys make the mistake of thinking silence is weakness. So they over-explain, defend themselves too much, or try to fix every problem by talking it to death. But others, the thing always needing to say something, often does more harm. Thank good pressure. It can come off as insecurity, and it usually makes a woman feel like she's not real being heard. She's just being talked at. Sometimes silence shows strength. It shows presence. It shows that you're not reacting emotionally to every little thing. And that calm, grounded energy isn't me thing women remember, especially in a world where most people are quick talk or overshare. There's a moment that speaks to this perfectly. Shai's venting. She's clearly upset. She's no tasking for a solution. She's just in loading. Most guys would interrupt with advice. They'd start throwing out ideas or telling her what she should do, thinking they're being helpful, but instead, he listens. He lets her talk. He stays with her. Nods. Occasionally doesn't rush her. Doesn't fix just then. When she pauses, he simply sees, I hear you. That's it. And lecture, no speech. Just calm, presence, and it changes everything. She feels safe. Not because he had the perfect words, but because he didn't need to make it about him. He was with her emotion, trying to stop it. He let her burr, and that stuck with her. This same set also shows up during conflict. When things get tense, a lot of men either shut down completely or talk too much, trying to explain, defend, or take control of the situation. But the Mano stays calm, thinks before speaking, and waits for the right moment to respond. That's a man who earns respect. His silence isn't passive, it's steady. Knowing when to speak is a skill. Knowing when not to speak is maturity. And the men who get this right stand out. Not because they say more, but because what they do say matters. When a man knows how to sit with silence without making it awkward. When Hedo aren't rushed to fill the space with noise, and when he can just be theirs, and more importantly, she remembers. He doesn't tolerate low standards. He doesn't tolerate low standards. One of the clearest signs of a man who sticks in a woman's memory is how he handles his standards. Not just what Hess he wants, but what he accepts. A lot of guys talk a good game. They say they want honesty, consistency, respect, and effort. But when it comes down to it, they end up tolerating the exact to leave. But Bo, because he's clearly not someone Hock promises his core values for temporary comfort. That quiet confidence leaves a stronger impression than any words ever could. The truth is anyone can talk about boundaries. Anyone can post about self-respect, but living it day in and day out is what makes the difference. And that's what Sherry remembers. Not just how he treated her when things were good, but how he handled himself when things got off track. Did he shrink? Did he chase? Or did he stay true to what he said Hess stood for? A man who doesn't tolerate standards isn't hard to find because he's cold or guarded. He's hard to find Beckers. He's solid. He's not desperate for connection, and he's not moved by. He chooses what aligns with him and lets go of what doesn't. That end of self-respect sticks with a woman bekos. Most people compromise too. But the man who stays rooted in his standards, he's not easy to forget. He leaves her better than he found her. 7. He leaves her better than he. The kind of man a woman remembers isn't just the one who mattered her laugh, made her feel desired, or impressed her in the short term. It's the one who left a positive impact, who can get her to grow, who showed up with character, not just charm. Emmanuel left her better than he found her, not because he was perfect, but moved with purpose and integrity. This doesn't mean you need to be her therapist, fix her problems, or try to change her. It means that in the time you were spent with her, whether it was a relationship, a few months of dating, or something short, you added value. She walked away from that experience knowing a little more about herself, about relationships, or even just a boot wet she deserves. And here's the truth that some men need to hear. If you leave women confused, emotionally drained, or questioning their worth, that's not it's not power, it's immaturity. Being unforgettable doesn't come from how good your game is. It comes from how you treat people when there's nothing in it for you. So ask yourself, are you building something when you're with someone? Or are you just taking what you can and moving on when it's no longer convenient? A man who leaves a woman bitter than he found her takes responsibility for how he shows up. He doesn't play with emotions. He's honest Devon when it's uncomfortable. He sets clear boundaries and respects hers. He doesn't fake interest to get what he then disappear when it's time to have real conversations. That kind of behaviour is everywhere and forgettable. What's rare is the man who's intentional, who knows what kind of off energy he brings, who doesn't shy away from hard truths, but also doesn't make things harder than they need to be. He's real, he's kind, and he's solid. And even if things don't work out, she looks back and thinks, I learned something from that. I grew from that. That's a mark of a high-value man. And if you're not there yet, that's okay. Most men aren't taught this stuff, but knows the time to wake up and reflect. Are you showing up as someone who adds value or someone who just takes up space? Are you leading with honesty and respect or with ego and fear? You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to all the answers. But you do need to responsibility for how you move in relationships. That's how you grow. That's how you stand out, and that's how you become the kind of man a woman doesn't forget. Summary. Most men focus on being liked in cement, but the men women remember aren't always the most charming or the most physically impressive. They're theons who showed up with consistency, clarity, and character. Here's something to think about. It's not that women have high standards, it's that to many, Minari, living below theirs. What you do, how you speak, the way you carry yourself, it all leaves a mark. And it's not about performing or pretending to bastion. You're not. It's about being grounded in who you are and refusing to drop your standards just to keep Sumion interested.